Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Seasonal Outlook from October to January 2019. This is Gina Palma. Over the last 30 days, temperatures have been well above normal over the southern half to two-thirds of the Great Basin, especially across Utah, with near to just below normal temperatures over central and western Idaho into far northwest Nevada. However, very dry conditions have continued in all areas, with many areas of Nevada into southwest Idaho and northwest Utah not seeing any precipitation in the last 30 days. Looking at the total precipitation for the water year, which started back on October 1st, 2017, showing well below normal precipitation over the southern half of the Great Basin, the only areas that have been near normal are parts of the Sierra Front and then up north over central and eastern Idaho into Wyoming. How this has changed our drought conditions across the Great Basin: we now have extreme to exceptional drought over the eastern half of Utah and severe to moderate drought over the rest of Utah into eastern Nevada and southern Idaho, with abnormally dry conditions elsewhere. Looking at the outlook for the drought, the image on the right, which takes us to the end of the year, the area shaded in brown showing the drought persisting or intensifying. With the very warm and dry conditions we've had across the Great Basin, it's no surprise that dead fuel moistures are very low, along with live fuel moistures for the time of year. We're seeing 10-hour fuel moistures below about 2% across many areas of Nevada into Utah. 100-hour fuel moistures are below 5% in a large area over the southern two-thirds of the Great Basin as well. And 1,000-hour fuel moistures are also very low across Nevada into Utah and also over parts of Idaho. If we look at the 60-day change in ERCs, the image on the left is late July this year. The image on the right is just yesterday. You can see ERCs really haven't changed all that much, and we're seeing ERCs very similar conditions to what we would normally see during the peak of fire season, with ERCs above the 80th to 90th percentile, and still many spots over northern Nevada, northern Utah, into eastern Idaho and Wyoming above the 97th percentile. If we look at how this compares to normal in some spots of the Great Basin, these ERCs, really in all areas of the Great Basin, with the exceptions of a few spots, are near or above records for the time of year. Therefore, this would put our ERC levels at, again, what we would see normally during the peak of fire season. Our latest Great Basin fire activity, which is from the end of September, we still have several large team fires over the northern Utah mountains up into western Wyoming. So now that we've seen what has been happening over the last few weeks to last several months, we'll go on to the expected conditions in the future. Looking at the 8 to 14-day outlook taking us from October 4th through October 10th, we're seeing warm conditions over the eastern half of the Great Basin and very wet conditions over really much of the country as we go into the early part of October. One reason for this out west is we have Hurricane Rosa off the Baja Peninsula, and an area of low pressure will move towards the west coast late in September into early October, and this will help bring all of this remnant hurricane moisture up across the eastern half to two-thirds of the Great Basin, with significant rainfall in some areas. These areas in blues over much of Utah into eastern Nevada are over 3/4 of an inch to up towards about 1.5 inches of total rainfall for this 7-day period, which will really occur over a day or two. The area in purple are rainfall amounts in excess of 2 to potentially 3 inches of rain. So you can see significant amounts of rainfall, which would likely be a season-ending event if these conditions do occur in many areas across Utah, the Arizona Strip, southern and eastern Nevada, up into far eastern Idaho and Wyoming. However, still over central and southwest Idaho, back into northwest Nevada, you can see much less precipitation. Therefore, many of these areas may only see very light amounts of precipitation. Now we'll look at the state of El Nino and La Nina expectations over the next few months. This is a chart of several models showing the expectations for El Nino. The area in red are El Nino conditions, the area in blue are La Nina conditions, and you can see as we go through time towards the end of the year, sea surface temperatures will be warming and likely put us into some state of El Nino. What impacts that has to the western U.S. we'll talk about in the next few slides. Looking at the 1-month outlook for October, we're looking at generally warm conditions, and again that above normal precipitation signature in the south and east, with drier conditions in the north. As we go into the 3-month outlook, November to January, you can see still warm conditions over much of the country, with drier conditions up north and wetter conditions in the south. This would be what we would typically see in an El Nino winter, with wetter conditions over the southern portion of the basin and drier conditions up north. However, we have seen several El Nino years where this has not occurred. So we will continue to monitor this, as if we see a true El Nino, we could see good rainfall amounts and significant fine fuel growth over the southern areas of the Great Basin, which would definitely be a change from the usual. Now, if we put all the pieces together, we'll look at our outlook. For October, we're still expecting above normal conditions over western and northern Nevada into southwest Idaho. Again, probably not early in the month, as we do see increases in relative humidity and some precipitation with the remnants of Rosa. However, as we go through October, since these areas will certainly see much less rainfall amounts than areas further east, we could certainly dry out again, and seeing a dry cold front with gusty winds increase fire potential in those areas. As we go through the next few months from November through December and January, we are expecting those conditions to return to normal. The only caveat would be over parts of western and northern Nevada into southern Idaho, where we still have a very significant fine fuel crop. As we see dry conditions periodically during this time, if we do see strong cold fronts bringing gusty winds, we could see fire potential pick up with possibilities of large fires in those conditions for a burning period or two. That concludes our webcast. Check back next month for the latest updates.